Community and heritage is one of the dearest subjects to my heart. I've been working on this topic in the last almost 8 years. And as I said earlier, in Pakistan, to me, the definition of conservation and preservation is different, a bit different. That is to educate your community, involve your community, and sensitize them about the heritage and value and its importance. Otherwise, there is no need you spend money on brick and mortars and go technical things and training the artisan and all these. Because unless the local community is not aware, sensitized, properly educated about their heritage, there is no need for the second or third step. I will take the example of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the province. I'm sure you are not familiar with that.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
So it's the northern, we have major 4 provinces and the Gilgit-Baltistan region. So the northwestern part is called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, where we have only at least 6,000 archaeological sites and 12 museums. So for the government organization, it is absolutely not possible to manage and to conserve and preserve all these archaeological sites. So the only shortest and easiest way is to educate your community and people, sensitize them. You should not destroy your heritage sites and at least preserve it. 3 years back, I always repeat this sentence in every conference that we have conducted a survey in different parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to know the existing knowledge of community, what we know about the archaeology, museums, heritage, culture, and the results were always disappointing for us because only 1.5% population they were aware about heritage, values, heritage, cultural heritage, archaeology, museums. Only 1.5 people they have visited the museums and archaeological sites. The rest, 98%, they were having absolutely no idea. So for being the government department, it is again not possible to guard 6,000 archaeological sites because you need at least, for one archaeological site, you need 3 watchmen to guard the site for 1 day. 6,000 means 18,000 guards you need to only safeguard the heritage site. So for the country like Pakistan, it is absolutely not possible to spend that much money on the human resources. The best thing is to educate your community, involve them in the heritage. So I'm very much happy, excited that at least on international level and on national level, this thing has been realized. And for UNESCO Convention, this part of the text has been highlighted, and people are sensitized that this is an issue and we should address it. So I think this is a good beginning. We at the individual level are doing a lot of activities to involve community and train them. Recently, UNESCO has some initiative. I was told that they are successful to get some fundings for to start some community projects in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. That we have already been doing on the government level. But if the UNESCO and international organization, people like Arakan and other organizations, they are also involved, and there are best practices already available throughout the world. There is no need to produce something new. We have already those international practices. Personally, I believe that we should focus on the age group between 6 and 12, which is a vulnerable age, and where we can, if you target that age of group for heritage awareness and involving community, that will be a long-lasting step. And that's the only way I think we can save our rich cultural heritage. So this was my conclusion from this today's practice discussion, that I'm excited that everybody think alike and they want to have this issue addressed.
Thank you so much. So the need of education, of course. Who wants to answer to his comments? You wanted to start, sir.
Just to begin with, I would like to rather stay a bit longer on the role of the community and identification of the concerned community. When we are thinking of any archaeological or historical site or sort of some tangible heritage, we think that the people immediately surrounding that particular site or monument are the community, are the stakeholders. The idea comes to mind that these must be the very people they should have some love lost for that particular heritage. We have here in Karachi two very good, extensively interesting graveyards, which are, say, the first-class monuments. One is called Chakundi tombs, another is called Baloch tombs. One belongs to the combined population of Jokhias and Bulfans. Another graveyard, it belongs to the Kalmati tribe. Now what happens is that during last 3 centuries, these people were proudly burying their dead within those archaeological graveyards. Now the modern time has come, presuming that these very people will be available for supporting, safeguarding their heritage. And we do consider that these are the stakeholders because their ancestors are buried there. They can instantly identify the graves of their forefathers. And in case of Kalmatis, I found that they even remember their 7th generation. So they are instantly attached to the site. But when there is any question of coming forward to help conserve the site, support the site, safeguard the site, I have found these communities wanting. Another issue, we have a wonderful Hyderabad fort. This is accidental interrelationship between the site and the community. The people who are occupying the site are totally hostile to the local tradition and local heritage. These people are occupying the very fort. They are living within the fort. They are living within the walls. And what happens is that so often some part of the wall falls. It falls and 1 or 2 or 3 persons are dead. The collapse of the wall, it is coming tumbling down. Why? Because these people are living using the kitchens, having the makeshift bathrooms, sanitary conditions, and drainage is not up to the mark. Everything is makeshift. And this is happening since last 65 years. And nobody has paid attention to it. The government of Sindh went ahead and had a plan. This plan brought in another scheme where it was supposedly be rehabilitating the fort, and it was meant to bring these people out of those walls and give them the alternate accommodation. And initially there was a huge opposition to that, understandably, because you see, nobody wanted to leave. And nobody again had the faith in the government or into the department, so they were not going out, they were not coming out of it. But then I had extensive meetings with them, and we convinced each other of our faithfulness. But look what happens. Every now and then, when the pressure is off, nothing is pushing forward. The department is facing difficulties in managing those such sites. So here, there is need that some very tricky type of arrangement is put, or some very sincere understanding is developed, with the legal players and the field workers working within those communities and within the managers of the heritage. So this is another aspect. And then there is this relationship of community and the site, like Mohenjo-daro. The people who are living around this site take much pride in Mohenjo-daro. They are not, never at all associated with those people who might have been the original inhabitants of Indus Valley civilization. There is a huge disconnect. But the matter is that here the connection is of pride, because Mohenjo-daro symbolizes some highest mark within the civilization of the world. So here this connect exists, and they can possibly be coming forward in any sort of arrangement, and they will be readily available. So this is another sort of connection. Look what happens in case of Makli. Makli is the World Heritage Site. The people who are living in Chattar have been burying their dead on Makli Hills. So the Makli Hills itself is basically a living graveyard. Now with the status of being World Heritage Site, the complication has arisen that you don't have to bury there. So no more burials is the motto. So what happens? All of a sudden, all those families who have their forefathers buried within those limits of Makli have found themselves on the other side. So nobody, none of them is sympathetic to it. Whenever they get the chance, they are intervening within the graveyard. They come in the night, they sort of do some sort of repairs or alterations within those graveyards. Rasmi knows it very well. The people here in the Department of Archaeology knows it. And this is a huge seek and hide game which is going on since so many years. And the building belongs to a government department. So now this is the easier part. Because if it would have been a private owner, they must actually be pushing every idea of development aside. Because here the land is very precious in Karachi commercial division. So everybody would rather like to demolish the old structure and go ahead with the skyrise. So this is another side of relationship. But being a government department which is honored, it has become very easier for us to push through and rehabilitate the particular structure in the whole market. So it is again the issue of situation to situation and the type of ownership and the stakes involved. This is the community. Now, essentially, as Samad was saying, that without the involvement of communities, whether it is set of hostile community, it is set of the owner community, or it is set of the onlookers themselves, but you have to have certain mechanism, and you should surely get involved working with those communities and making them realize in one way or the other that you have to be the real owners in the case. Somebody here said a very, very precious point that said that if there are capital gains, some cash is coming, some benefit is accruing, that is the real estate actually. So one has to think about how can possibly we can bring those benefits to come in. That will make the people really be interested in safeguarding that particular heritage.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that you pointed an important point, that the type of community. So I have to ask something that I forgot. I will ask you, some of you, to present for like 5 minutes after this discussion to the other group at the end of our meeting. So I need one volunteer. Who wants to do that? I will leave the field to you to decide. Who feels that is able to do that? So he or she has to be careful about the discussions and then just to present the conclusion of our discussion to the other group for 5 minutes. So just deciding this, then we can, you suggest. So anyone else?
It's okay. No, it's not license.
Oh, everybody's agree with this decision?
Dr. Ashari Sahab, you can give comment.
Who's gonna be the presenter for the group at the end of our discussion?
What is the question?
Zahid?
I mean, okay, whatever anyone wants.
Anyone else wants to? Everyone is agreed? Yes? We can go?
Shari sir, we are not clear who will be presenting, so it's not clear. The DG Saab suggested Dr. Lashari. If anybody has suggestions.
It's okay.
Please?
Everybody's.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's your task then, Mr. to...
So you have to educate me first.
We all
You should be careful about
You just heard Dr. Samar and then we are listening to you, so it's just begun.
Yes.
So the end conclusion would be 1 to 2 points from each input, basically.
Exactly. So thank you.
Your own insights and so.
So now,
I want to
that
say
means...
something. Yeah.
Yes, you want to say?
Yeah.
Can you present yourself also, please?
Yes, I am Zafar Ali Buledi
Yes.
from Balochistan, Quetta. Now serving as secretary to the government in
Okay.
archaeology, culture department and
So,
tourism. Yeah. So basically, to my mind, workshop of today is very relevant and the need of the day. What I understand, without the effective engagement of community, it is quite challenging to preserve our cultural sites or cultural heritage. You know, Balochistan is the largest province of Pakistan. It is 45% of the total area of the country, the largest province. And the second feature of Balochistan is that it is a tribal society. Being a tribal society, we always, communities always remain under security threat. Each tribe wants to impose hegemony or power over other tribe. And that scenario, I think, has greatly affected our cultural heritage sites. Here I will especially quote one example of Mehergarh. Mehergarh site, which is located 130 kilometers from Quetta, is one of the ancient and oldest site in South Asia. And this site was first discovered by a French team. And they worked for 30 years on that site. But unfortunately, the site is located in a district where two powerful tribal communities have not been pulling on with each other for quite 3 to 4 decades. I will name those communities. Everybody knows. One is Rind and other is Resanj. The conflict of both the communities have almost damaged the site, almost 70 to 80%. The worst scenario is that, especially for the sake of that Mehergarh site, but till today we have not been able to bring those communities on the table. So in that case, I think, what should we do? For me, what is the way forward? How can I engage community in that specific locality? Sometimes I feel that it is very important. Without the community engagement, it is difficult for me, being a secretary of the Culture, Tourism and Archaeology, to preserve, conserve and manage that site. Though recently I made an effort and I tried to convince parliamentarians to find out some solution. And during the last session of the Provincial Assembly, I talked to many ministers and MPAs to place a resolution in the Provincial Assembly. So to that extent I was successful, and this issue was quite debated in the Provincial Assembly to highlight the Meherkad issue. I also tried to convince my Chief Minister to arrange some funding for the conservation and management of heritage site, and he was very kind enough initially to agree to allocate 100 million rupees just to start the work there. But again, this is the situation.
Okay, I think that it's some good point that somebody from the government is asking how to invite and engage the community.
Yes.
So who wants to answer
Just
this?
1 minute.
Yes.
Just I will take 1 minute,
Yes,
because
thank
I
you.
have already taken a lot of time on this discussion.
I don't want you to change your idea, so that's I want just to take this
Yeah.
opportunity and go on.
But this case, I mean, this is not a uniform case across the province.
Of course.
Okay. If you travel to the other region like Makron or Nasirabad zone, you will find community very supportive, very cooperative. We have certain sites in those regions like shrines, old monuments and tombs, and we are getting, I mean, very encouraging response from the community. So these are the both scenario I have placed before this forum.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, can you?
With your permission, I would like to just give a few humble tips.
Yeah, please.
Present yourself as well.
I am Naeem Safi. I am the director of the Peshawar City Conservation Project, and my background is basically in visual communication and writing, which is also used for advertisement. So that is why I want to give some tips of how the advertisers manipulate the society. So you can basically use that knowledge into making people do the things which may or may not, in this case they are good for that, but the system manipulates them to the extent that without their own free will, they are being manipulated. So what normally in the development sector we miss is, in advertisement we use these golden circles, it has 3 layers. On the outer is what needs to be done. The middle layer says how this thing should be done. But the core layer is, which basically responds to deep inside the subconscious mind, is why. So we are usually stuck with the how part and the what part. And the why part is usually missing, and that is why we always find resistance. So I would say that if you can employ or give a task to someone who is into the advertisement from the corporate sector, they will, we have these very well established tools of studying the problem and then finding a solution to that. It is basically, in this case, you are selling an idea to them. You are not selling a product, and which may later on be translated into cash or what, as you said, value, and joint ownership or something like that. So this is one way of looking into it through unusual means, taking help from another sector.
Any other answer? Team lady, please.
Of course, very good points that you brought out, and I really like the idea of someone first and for children to be involved. I think that's really not such a difficult thing to do. The only problem I feel is that government itself is not coordinating with each other. There's so many different departments. Why is education not on the same page as heritage? Why is, there's so many departments that could help you. Why is sports not part of it, and so on and so forth. So I think first of all, the government has to really put its act together, I'm sorry to say. It's not there yet. And I think there has to be a lot of coordination, and I think heritage department or archaeology and so on and so forth should be the lead ones in this. And they should say, we want this department, this one and this one to be on our side and to work with us. I mean, why should the community that we are talking of are in this terrible dire state? Why is I don't know, the district government or God knows who, why aren't they putting any funding into them so that they start improving their own lives first of all? So I think there's a whole kind of misstep there. I would really like to see if we are really serious about this. And I can only talk about the experience from Sindh. I really don't know much about other provinces except a little bit about the walled city and so on, but of Peshawar. But I would say that I like the idea of children being involved, schools being involved. And again, Afzal Khan will remember at Lahore Fort, we did all these, thousands of kids had come in and they were celebrating the Fort of Lahore. We scrubbed the walls clean and so on and so forth. So this can all be done. It's not such a big deal, but I think you have to also think of partnership with civil society. Right now, they seem to be on two different edges. I mean, government works on its own, civil society works on its own. Why is there no collaboration? I think if we could be thinking about that, that could be one way to go about it, because obviously, the government departments have their hands full. They have huge amounts of work to do. But you could have these mediators in between who could help you in that. So that could be one way to go. I'm only suggesting, I'm only brainstorming. I do not have any full-fledged answers. But going on to Chukandi and such areas that Dr. Lashari has mentioned, and knowing a little bit about these communities, see, the issue is this, that obviously the ancestors were buried, and those people now who are alive have a link, have some sort of a connection, but it's not as deep as they would want to go and fix everything up. But on the other hand, the government has not provided a platform on which they could come and say, okay, I want to fix up the grave of my ancestor. How will I do it? We do not give them any tools. We do not train them. We do not tell them how to do it. How will they do it? We don't facilitate them. So I think if you want that to happen, and I very strongly urge for Makli that this could be really one way, because there are still tribes and there are people whose ancestors are buried there. They have a connection with the whole site. They don't know how to come and fix things. And I can give you a very small example. When we were fixing the Sabi Mosque, there was this little graveyard just next to it. And I have to say that compliments to the department, because now the site is, mashallah, doing so well. It's clean and neatly done. But there was a time when it was really in total doldrums. And we invited this Palijo tribe to come, and we said, okay, we are fixing this mosque, can you come and try to fix your graves? And they were very happy to come, and we provided them the material, and they told them how to do it, and they did it. So it was a small example, but I think it's possible. Yeah. So even those, we can of course reach out to people who are descendants, but also people who are around these sites. They have nothing to do, they have had no ancestors buried there, but they have a deep connection with the site, because that is where they go and where they earn something, whatever little it is. And that is also a good, valid point why the communities should not be involved, whether they've had their connection or not. And I think somehow we need to see how to bring them into the loop. And they will be ready. We have to, and as rightly said, unless there's some returns, and I think Saman's project showed how returns can actually motivate. But we also have to remember that you have to educate people. You can't expect that you go in and say, look, this is something good for you, and do it. So I'm sorry, I don't quite agree with your approach of having a high-powered advertising team going in and doing it. I think it's got to be more grassroots level work, telling them and empathizing with them, and so it's a huge other ball game that we have to be thinking of. So,
please stay up. पहले बात कर लेना उसके बाद. I'm just queuing up.
Okay. So Chukandi, I think, has a tremendous chance of being saved. Whoever is around, now there are trucks around them. You can't get the trucks to go and do anything. You've got to remove those trucks. I mean, only then something will happen in Chukandi, I'm sorry to say. But I think Makli is a good case where we can bring in people who belong or who have a connection with the thing, and also people who did not have a connection but have a connection now. So I don't I don't think it's a good idea to differentiate between the community that was there before and the community that is there now. I think anybody who is there around is the one that is deeply connected as far as I'm concerned, and they are the ones we've got to reach out to, we've got to get them involved, and you've got to create a possibility. The government got to do it, and only then things will begin to happen. But that way, I said, civil society has got to be active in all this as well. It cannot be done by government alone, because sometimes, I'm sorry, but people don't trust government, you know, a lot of times. So we have to be just very careful, and I think this can be done. Another point, good point by Dr. Ashari, was how people are being buried even today. And as you rightly said, that now they're being stopped. But also that's a little bit unfair unless we give them an alternative possibility of burying people. So we have to do it very carefully. And of course burial must be stopped. But we have the buffer zone that's quite defined quite well now. And so I think if we can find a burial place in the buffer zone, I don't think there'll be an objection from World Heritage Center. So we have to find the solutions, preempt everything, because once you stop people, that creates bad blood. Why should you create bad blood with people, you know? So we have to be a little bit careful. Hyderabad Fort, of course, another ball. I mean, it's a totally different story where people have squatted, and this is the same story as anywhere else in the country where people have squatted and will not leave. And but again, why they don't have toilets? Why hasn't somebody given them toilets so that, you know, so that sewage is not destroying the site? I mean, come on, there is obviously the district government and so on. So I think the government itself has to be brought, the government departments, different departments have to be brought on board. They are not working with you. For instance, our CAF department, it's destroying Makli. What has been done about that? I mean, they build these awful concrete structures all over the place, and we don't do anything about it, you know? So, I mean, we're stopping these poor people from burying their dead, but we're not stopping Wakaf to build these horrible structures, you know, which is destroying the site. So, you know, I think government departments have got to work together in this. Then the case of Mohenjo-daro. I mean, I've seen Mohenjo-daro for the last, God knows, you can imagine from my age how long it must have been that I've been going there. And the amount of money that's gone into Mohenjo-daro, I see the villages in the same apathetic state as they were 20, 25, 30 years ago. Why is that? Because the benefits of development or work in Makli are not accruing to the people themselves. And do you think people, you know, they don't see it? Of course they see it. So again, other departments should also come together and work on them. And funding that comes in from these heritage for these heritage sites must also be shared by people, as Salman's project clearly showed that. Karachi building, I will not comment. Karachi is now the city of the what is it? The Bahariya towns and all the rest of it, and it's very difficult to handle. I mean, you know, in the sense that political pressures and benefits are too large. So a lot of things are happening that are not so good. So for Mr. Buledi, I only have one small comment.
Yeah.
That perhaps it's a good idea for you to involve local CSOs, civil society organizations, who have contacts with the community, who are able to bring them together, and then you work with them. Don't try to do it yourself. You probably will not be able to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will.
No answers.
So you're gonna be the third person now, because I have Mr. Jawad first to comment.
Well, also, you know, beside history, I also studies economics. So usually I say that there is a great supply of culture in Pakistan, and there is a need to create demand for culture. And of course, that is awareness raising and educating, specifically our youth. And but there are different aspects of it, of course. What Samad mentioned, Shari Sahab mentioned that this identity and rootedness of the people, and how they belong to their past and their these cultural heritage. But then there is also and also this sustainable development side need to be looked at. And I mean, further to Madam Lari, as she mentioned, that there is a need to partner with other organizations. And I think there is a great potential on the sustainable development side, like this Aflaj case presented by Rawahi. We also have in Pakistan a number of water sources sites, like in Balochistan, Kares, Road Koi system in Diyai Khan, where we can involve community and show them the benefits of that. And I mean, just for an information that engaging other departments like this PCRWR, Pakistan Council for Water Conservation. UNESCO hasn't engaged them, and they developed a dossier for the Karay system in Balochistan, which is now on the tentative list, and currently they are working on to submit a dossier for a World Heritage list. And I think Buledi Sahab can also have an idea and work with them. It's not just the responsibility of culture department.
Yeah.
In other areas they can identify and choose other departments to work with and engage them. They can also engage the community in their own way, showing them the benefits of sustainable development.
Collaboration. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't engage with the community, forget about doing that project. And that's what I was trying to also explain through the project that we did up in the north. Engaging with the community demands, in our view, a long-term commitment. It cannot be a 1-year project, or 2-year project, or 3-year project. It has to be a long-term project. For example, we've been up in Shigar since 1997. This is 20 years, right? We continue to engage with the community. It's not a one-off. It should not be considered a one-off. It has to be on a continuous basis, is what we feel. The context will always be different. You'll have a different context in Mehergarh, in Karachi, and wherever you have it, in Mathli. But you need to engage with the community. This does not mean that this will be always successful. Not at all. But it's a precondition for any success to be achieved to be engaged with the community. How do you engage with the community is an issue. And it's an issue for a simple reason for the government. The government, when we say government, it might be considered monolithic, but it's not actually, Kalimullah Ashari Sahab will be there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, goes away. The next guy comes in. He goes away in the next 6 months or whatever. So when we say the government needs to take this big role, we need to, I think of it slightly differently now. I think Yasmin Lari has pointed that out. Let's use those civil bodies out there, the civil society as it were. That's in Mehergarh or Mathli or Lahore or up in Gilgit-Baltistan, whatever. I think we need to get that encouragement going. Because as I say, the shortcoming with the government is people change. Priorities change immediately. I can give you my example of when we worked in Lahore. We started work in 2007 in Lahore. The first year was fine. We had one DG. Naeem Safi would also know that, Humayun Fashori. But then over the next 4 or 5 years, I think 6 changed. We thought of moving out from there, really. So we need to be there, and can heritage be a priority for the government, generally, as a priority, It generally doesn't figure out, unfortunately. But what we also feel is, if we can do some demonstration projects, again, up in Shigar we've done that, and that's why we were able to work in, on the bigger projects. In Lahore, again, when we started work, again, Naeem Safi can tell us, there used to be banners out there in the walled city saying, we don't want this, we want food and whatever, We don't want heritage conservation. It's taken a while, it does take a while, to gain that trust and credibility of delivery. And if you can do that, I think it's wonderful. What the government of Punjab did, and maybe that's something for others to consider as well, is they set up what's known as the Walled City Lahore Authority. And now they got a person who has, shall we say, stature, influence, Mr. Kamran Ashari. Some of us might think he's controversial, but he has that at least status and stature that he can get things going, get influence going. But you have to work with the community, and I totally agree with Yasmin Lari. It is the community there at the site then. That's the important one. And they must benefit, and must be credible, and must be transparent, and they must know what is going on. Only then will things work out. I think it's been mentioned by so many people. I think Jahan did, others did that. Tangible benefits must come to the community around it, or at least to a reasonable amount of that community should benefit from whatever work has happened. Only then will you have a possibility of success, may I suggest. So I think I'll stop there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Isam. So please.
I'm Qasim Ali Qasim, former director of archaeology. This is no doubt that without the involvement of community, we can't sustain any development work, or we can't safeguard our heritage sites. But how to achieve that goal? This can be achieved through the create awareness among the local community, sense of ownership about their heritage. And how we create sense of ownership among the local community? By giving benefits of that particular heritage to the peoples residing inside or around the heritage site. So, and how we can involve? We can involve them into the conservation, preservation. Even Bangladesh has today narrated that they trained some people, some young people, to guide the visitors and earn their livelihood. Likewise, I give a short comment about the Buledi Saab's remarks on Mehergarh issue. Mehergarh was discovered and excavated since 1976 to 1976, and it was continued with the help of Raisani, one of the main tribe of Raisani, because the Mehergarh site, which is the earliest Neolithic site of the world, and it is situated on the land of Raisani, one of the tribes. He told that. The other one are the both rivalries are very highly educated. They are both educated from the Harvard. Even one of the community have created the website of the Mehergarh site, and they are still using, updating that material on their website. But now the website is being used for political reasons, that the other tribe is destroying the site. But I have a suggestion that like UNESCO have an agreement of 1954 Hague Convention that no enemy country can destroy or attack on the World Heritage Site. That is, UNESCO is a mediator in any such dispute. In Balochistan, we have, as told Buledi Saab, that we have a tribal system, and tribal system is not working under the normal laws. They have their jirga system. So we can involve the adults of both parties, and even both are not enemy of our side. They are enemy each other, not our heritage site. So we at least sit together with them, and they should at least reach an agreement that site cannot be destroyed. The research work should be continued, which is dormant since last 10 years. So this is my suggestion.
Thank you so much.
I want to add something.
I think that we should wait because after one. Yes, please.
Maybe they are doing a good job, they have well-trained professionals, but they are few in numbers. And the real owners are in millions. But unfortunately, they are ignorant. They don't know about the cultural heritage, and most of them are living below poverty level, and they are struggling for bread and butter. So until and unless they are not educated, they are not given the sense of ownership, and their sources of earning are not linked positively with the cultural property, we cannot preserve or protect our cultural heritage. So there is a need to involve local community and give them some benefits from them cultural property. Otherwise, it is not possible.
We are now, I feel that one important fact is missing here. We are mentioning that ownership shall be there. And we mean ownership, and we are connecting the ownership to economical benefits. But I feel that it is not the economical benefit which actually motivates people. It's not the only point. Particularly in the case, I'm from tribal areas, and my house is on almost 1800 years old house. And that house is being demolished, recently, 30 years back when I was in school. But in my neighborhood there is a shrine, and nobody can touch that shrine because people has emotional value, emotional linkage to it. And in all of my region, and in Balochistan, because most of the sites are not Muslim sites, underlying Muslim sites. So the people living nowadays do not connect to them emotionally. And in my place, there are many, I think the oldest Buddhist carvings, and all of the faces are being,